Great news. It looks like Errol Spence versus Shawn Porter unification at welterweight is going to happen in California, Staples Center. What up, Fight World? It's your boy, Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing if you want to become part of the gang. Notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chat channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. We working. Lance Pugmire of the Athletic, he was the first that I seen report on this, and you guys see on the screen his tweet says the September 28th Errol Spence Jr. versus Shawn Porter welterweight unification fight is coming to the Staples Center. The Athletic Box has learned and may be announced by this weekend. Another California win over Las Vegas. Facts. Cali out here winning. Cali is back. Now, this is music to my ears. As you guys know, I reside in California. I'm in the Bay Area, but still an easier trip to get to than anywhere else, So I love it. I think California has been kind of neglected. A lot of the big fights have been, at the Barclays Center. Madison Square Garden got, Canelo in December, and Vegas got Canelo in May. Speaking of Canelo, I did a video about an unpacked video. Canelo has jumped off of the September 14th Mexican date, which is not a good sign to me. I kind of unpacked that and went over it, why I don't think that's a good look. I think DAZN, they need a hit like ASAP. And it just shows inner turmoil to me that they can't get Canelo an opponent that is feasible, that the opponent is going to accept the offer, the money. And meanwhile, that month that Errol Spence and Shawn Porter would have had to compete with Canelo, guess what? Now they don't. So you have Al Heyman, who's a silent killer, and he's putting on Errol Spence, Shawn Porter. And from what I heard, Anthony Darrell versus, he's the WBC champion, versus David Benavidez, the former WBC champion. Now, bear this in mind, David Benavidez was the WBC champion, and he lost his belt, but he's still undefeated. So similar to Tyson Fury, almost exactly the same. They both failed drug tests over cocaine, so they're undefeated fighters they were forced to relinquish their belt, so they did lose their belt, but they didn't lose it for the traditional reason like, oh, so-and-so beat me, And now David Benavidez, he said he's putting that in the past and just learning from it and doesn't want to disappoint people again. So hopefully he stays on track. But I do like that fight because the reason Anthony Darrell became a champion again was because the belt became vacated. That's how he got that particular belt, I guess you could say. So it's a good fight. It would be like when Dominic Breazeale offered to fight Dillian White. Some people had confusion as to who should get the Deontay Wilder WBC mandatory shot. And Dominic Breazeale said, hey, Dillian White, let's fight. And then the winner fights Deontay Wilder. But the only thing is Eddie Hearn and Dillian White didn't make that fight. Instead, opted to fight Derek Chisora. So this is the right move to me. Anthony Darrell can either hold on to the belt or he's going to lose it to the person who was the predecessor to the belt, And I think that's a very strong card. David Benavidez, he's from Arizona, right? And, Arizona, still West Coast. It's not far. It's not too far where people like his people can't travel. Anthony Darrell, he's probably, I don't know his recent fights if he fought in LA, but he's the Darrell brothers. So everybody knows them. He does commentary with PBC. And I know he's covered some PBC because I seen him in, I think it was a Vegas fight, and I chopped it up with him. Shout out to my dude. And, he's done commentary. So, it's just a good fight. And I think that's a very strong chief support. Meanwhile, like I said, DAZN, they have Canelo postponing his quote unquote Mexican dates that he had since Floyd retired, basically. He said he wants to fight on those particular 2 dates. And that's not a good sign, again, because you mean to tell me you knew Canelo last year wanted to fight May and September, right? How can't you find an adequate opponent for him in that amount of time? Even when he beat Daniel Jacobs in May, you could start immediately. That's what you're supposed to do, I thought. Immediately start working on facilitating an opponent that meets everyone's criteria, And for Canelo to bow out of that date, that just shows me that they don't have everything lined up like they should. That's the biggest star on DAZN. He's generated the highest numbers on DAZN, yet and still they can't find a workable opponent. It all went down the hill when Kovalev announced he was fighting Anthony Yarde, because he was like, man, I'm not gonna mess this Anthony Yarde money up waiting for Canelo, and they trying to lowball me and playing games and stuff like that. Hell nah. And he went and main events in ESPN. They're like, nah, we got to get this Kovalev fight on the road, because we don't want to be caught with our pants down, spend all this time fooling around with Canelo, and based on the low ball and stuff, he's not serious about fighting us. And as a result, we're out of the Anthony Yarde money too, and that's a meaningful fight. And I personally prefer that fight. But back to Errol Spence, Shawn Porter, very good unification. You have Manny Pacquiao. I'm in Vegas right now. Manny Pacquiao versus Keith Thurman in a consolidation of the WBA belts at welterweight. So, Shawn Porter is going to be intently watching. Errol Spence is going to be watching. And it's just an overall very good fight. Very good fight for the fans and whatnot. And interesting style mesh. You have Errol Spence, who's looking like a killer, very vicious with the body work. Showed in his last fight what some people didn't think he possessed, the ability to box. And Shawn Porter, he showed he can box in his last two fights. Ugas was a little bit tight. Some people thought Ugas won, but he boxed more than the previous Shawn Porter we've seen. And he also boxed in the Danny Garcia fight. So, you don't know what you're going to get with either guy. You don't know if they're going to come out trying to, tactically box. You don't know if Shawn Porter's going to fight more so like he fought Andre Berto, or if he's going to come out trying to respect Errol Spence and pick shots and, throw him off. Very good fight, September 28th. And like I said, now they don't even have to compete with another fight 2 weeks before in Canelo. So I would say that Errol Spence, Shawn Porter, PBC on Fox, Premier Boxing Champs, and Al Heyman, they're winning. Anthony Joshua last year fought Povetkin in September, and now we know he's not fighting. I don't know what's taking so long, but we know he's not fighting in September. He's triggered a rematch for Andy Ruiz, an Al Heyman fighter, and they're fighting probably October, November, December, right around there, probably November or December. So the September, the beginning of the fall, is wide open as far as I know, schedule-wise, where there's not really too much to compete in boxing with. And again, it's a big fight with a good co-feature. Anthony Darrell versus David Benavidez for the battle of the WBC. Last fight, and the funny thing is, I was at Spence Garcia, and David Benavidez was on that undercard too. I think the co-feature, he fought Jay Leon Love, and he got a good reception. And in post-fight, he said that he's going to reclaim what was lost, and then he can move on to some of the other names. It's just a good time. PBC's putting on some good stuff. Also, they have Caleb Plant fighting this weekend against Mike Lee. He says that's what he's fully focused on. However, if he wins, people want to see Caleb Plant versus Anthony Darrell and or David Benavidez, who wins that fight. So the timing is aligning very well for PBC, so you can get some of these marquee fights here soon. Pacquiao, Thurman, that Thurman said if he wins, he's not fighting anymore this year because he already fought twice. But either way, it still aligns for winners to meet in 2020, and it could be in the beginning of 2020 as far as I'm concerned. So a lot of good stuff, and it looks like Al Heyman's trying to close the year strong. Spence, Porter, then they're saying Deontay Wilder is probably going to fight Luis Ortiz in November. This is going to be a good close to the year. And I don't know if that's still going to be at the Staples Center. They're kind of trying to work it out. But I really like that the fights in Cali, I think California's been kind of neglected. You haven't really got, you know, the big fights in California. So this is big to see that. I went to another unification at the Staples Center, probably the last big one that was at the Staples Center, which was last year, Mikey Garcia versus Robert Easter, and it was lit. So, you know, I can imagine Spence, Shawn Porter energy. Plus, I look at little stuff like, you look at the new Lakers team. The Lakers team, there's a ton of people going over there. So they need to really create an atmosphere where the Staples Center and boxing is back realigned, where you start thinking of the Staples Center for big fights, not just like when there's a big fight, you know that there's a chance the Barclays might get it. But I think I had a good time. I went and seen, I covered Wilder versus Tyson Fury and Mikey Garcia versus Robert Easter at the Staples Center. And they also had other fights like Leo Santa Cruz versus Benavidez 1 and 2. I didn't cover those ones though. But, you know, the crowd it's just a good energy. And again, I think they deserve more fights in that region. LA always gets down, you know, the Bay comes down. It's just a good time. So I think this is a great way to reestablish the Staples Center as a prominent facility and venue for boxing, especially in conjunction with the Lakers game. You know, and the new Lakers team with AD going there, LeBron, you know, they have a squad. So, you know, it just gives you that Hollywood feel, like big fight feel. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the questions in the comment section. Errol Spence versus Shawn Porter, September 28th, Staples Center. We working.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.